Okay, so we're
Okay.
back for part 2 after our little technical glitch. The joys of
You gotta love that.
Wi-Fi.
Is it Mercury retrograde right now again? Is it?
You were just in the part where we're all hanging on our ledge
I know, like,
to know what was going to happen in this relationship. Is she going to go or not go? Is she going to jump?
Right.
So yeah, so you were just in the middle telling us where you were like hanging on the ledge. I think there was your mother, and she was kind of like not necessarily into these kind of relationships, and you're like, but you start feeling such strong feelings, and at 24 you jumped, and I think you were just about to tell us.
Right. And exactly. And so I've had some encounters, and I officially had like a girlfriend probably maybe like 4 years ago, because I didn't even know that that was even a possibility for me. I thought it was more like of a sensual experience, a playful experience, but not like an actual romantic interest. And as I've continued to self-discover, and as I continue to lean into these things, I just discovered more and more about myself. And it feels
Tell
like
us what
to
you
me
discovered.
yeah. What it feels like to me is that I am designed to have a man and a woman, and that feels most complete for me. And I'm currently exploring an open relationship, which I've never done before. I've always been in monogamous relationships. So talk about all of the things that you were attached to in having someone be yours, right? Like even that sort of possession. And culturally, that's what I've been around throughout my entire life experience. But because I've unleashed myself so much, I feel like I've been able to do this more gracefully now. And that's why I'm ready. I was ready for it. So I came out to Utah just a few months ago, or a couple months ago, just because that's where my flow, I was following my highest excitement. So here I am in Utah from LA, and then I meet this girl that I knew her from LA, and I've actually had her do a talk on one of my unleashes a year ago, because her journey was spectacular, and I was like, oh my God, you have to come to Unleash. I want people to experience this journey of yours. And she did a 10-minute talk on my spiritual awakening through porn. And so then there's that, layer, and that's what a shameless human being she is as well, and she's undergone a lot of things. So I feel like in this particular relationship, I've been shown time and time again my insecurities, or still where I'm running into my edges. So for instance, there was a moment in time where I officially saw her kiss somebody on her story that another person she's dating, since this is an open relationship. And that created a shock factor for my being. I didn't even know what to do with myself. I just could experience my body full into contraction. And I had to start to be like, well, what is my belief about this? What am I thinking is going to happen by seeing her kiss someone else? And so I had to go through an entire dialogue and conversation until I got to the raw truth. And I did some emotional freedom techniques and tapping to reprogram myself. But essentially it got to the piece of unimportance. And it got to the piece of I didn't feel important, and I didn't feel prioritized. And that comes from my dad, abandonment, those things, and the experiences that I had with him as a child, to then think and recreate this same thing with another individual. But it's no one's responsibility for your pain. Your pain is your pain. This is my pain. This is not your pain. You're not here to fix my pain. You're here to show me my pain. So I am the one who is responsible for clearing that. Because the truth is, I am important, right? I had to reprogram myself and be like, wait, why did I decide that I wasn't important because my dad didn't show up for certain things? Right? That's a story that I created within myself. And so then, therefore, I had to be like, I am important. I am amazing. I am all these things. So it had to come from a real intrinsic thing to then, now I don't need her to validate my importance or validate that for me to make me feel good. Now I'm actually like feeling I am that. And whatever it is that I think matters for me, I need to voice out loud as well and communicate that to her, not try to like accommodate myself to fit her lifestyle or her needs. I also have to stay in my lane and be like, this is who I am. This is what I can work with. This is not what I can work with, et cetera, et cetera. But I don't, like, at this point, I've gone through so many of those, like, whoa, like, it's been like that. At least I've died a few dozen deaths in this particular one.
Wow. Well, I'm even seeing, like, as you speak, that there could be even that sort of spiritual thing where you almost want to be more spiritually evolved than you are. So then you sort of like want to be more enlightened, but then you're actually still suffering, and how much harm you're doing to yourself of not admitting, like, this is really painful for me and this is why, or that doesn't work for me. I wish I could be super comfortable with everything you're doing, but actually I'm still hurting.
But this is where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right. And to be very, very honest with yourself, to know where you're at, and like to feel your feelings, because I couldn't be where she's at, because she's already had certain types of experiences that have led her to then be in that position. Right. But this is like a first for me. And she's also been, what's been really helpful in this particular relationship is that there's been a lot of communication, and she's also has responded in a way that she's actually held space for me. And that's not necessarily true for other types of relationships if the other person is maybe not as evolved. And so I say to that, like, if a person's not communicating and all that, then you really have to, like, see yourself as I am important and I'm deserving, and I'm not going to, like, get something less than what I deserve to have in my life, right? Like, so because there's also been a certain space holding for her to hold me when I'm in my most tender space of being, that's why I've been able to evolve so gracefully throughout this process. So it's like it's like
it sounds like a coming to peace with it.
It's coming to peace with it. I'm like, hey, this is where I'm at. I know I'm not exactly where you're at. I actually don't even pretend to like a whole bunch of people at the same time. That's actually not who I am, right? That's who you are, and I completely accept and honor you for you being that, and I want you to be you. And if you want to be with as many people as you want to, like, that's fine. Our relationship is very unique, and there's no one that can take anything away from us, because we are in a sovereign relationship, right? So there's no comparison in her relationship even with others. They have a unique relationship. I have a unique relationship with her. And so that's the other part of it that you have to come to terms with. It's like releasing the comparison, releasing any thought that someone is taking something from you.
It's really come from that scarcity place, right?
Right, totally. And if you're more of a person, like, I'm definitely a person that I like quality time, right? And so that's a requirement for me. And if I am not being met with that in the relationship, then I'll release that relationship, because that's also, you're not
going to just harm yourself for, like, harming yourself.
Exactly. And so, but this has definitely been the most challenging experience I think I've had in relationships, in terms of the level of uncomfortability that I have felt, but also I feel it's been the most graceful, because I've been able to zoom out and witness myself and sit in the uncomfortability, just allowing myself to feel the feelings and voicing it even to her. Like, even voicing the feeling. What's
the thing that attracts you most to her? Like, what's that pull that brings you to her?
Yeah, it's definitely a magnet. It's like from both of our ends. I think what is most attractive about her is actually her level of innocence and purity, while at the same time being as wild as she is. And so for me, it's so attractive because I see myself in her. It's almost like I'm seeing an evolved version of myself. And so this is also a first time in my life that I feel like I've been in the student shoes in terms of a romantic relationship. I've always kind of been in the teacher shoes. So this for me, that's like, I'm humbled. I'm completely like, I'm humbled, and I'm willing to receive the gifts that are being presented to me right now in this moment. And she is the perfect person to do it, because she is literally on a level of freedom that I've not ever witnessed anybody be in.
Can you describe that freedom a little bit to us? Because I think, like, yeah, it'd be nice to have that imagination.
Yeah. So the level of freedom that she's at, is that what you're referring to? And
yeah, like how does it show up?
Oh, it shows up like she can show up somewhere like a restaurant and have you know, her body be showing like in ways that, you know, would be quote inappropriate to be at a restaurant in, right? Like that's just one tiny example. And her being so joyful in her level of innocence in it, because it's not even to attract attention. She's just being who she is. And that is a level of freedom. And how we dance and how we express, and there's no stigmas around anything. And also her being involved in the porn industry, and you know, imagine the level of shame you have to release in order to be in that as well. And you know, for me, you know, I have no judgment towards it. There's no, like, I think because I've evolved so much. I think in the past, if I would have had a partner that would have been in that industry, I think I would have been a little bit like, oh, you know, very insecure around it. But yeah, I'm to the place of, that's the level of freedom that we have, is to see each other as we are, and not trying to fix or change the individual.
That's beautiful.
And that's freedom. That's freedom, is to like be in a partnership where you're not trying to fix or change. You are literally giving them the full space to be themselves.
Wow. Yeah. And what does she make you feel in terms of, what does she, like, what's the experience you have when you're with her?
Oh, the experience I have is it's just joy and fun and play. And also we can go into deep conversations, because she's very much like me. She's poetic. She's an artist. She's, you know, so we can go into all sorts of cosmic and really deep conversations. And partially what we're both here to do on a soul mission, almost, it feels like we're together on a similar mission of helping people come into their shamelessness and their sovereignty and their level of freedom. So we're both doing it in our unique ways. I do it through Unleash, which is a dance experience, and she's doing it through sex work, right? So it's similar but different. And yeah, and she's very attentive, and she brings me flowers and she writes me cards, and she sings me songs, and you know, we have this beautiful connection. And I think it's like we're in love, like we're in true love, and I haven't felt that in years, quite honestly, or ever quite like this.
And so since you're an open,
has accepted me in this way.
Yeah. And so you're like, from what I understood, is like she's in multiple, like with different relationships, but you're not necessarily with other people. You're just with her right now, and you're happy
Currently,
with that. Yeah.
And I'm happy with that. And I'm still open to being with other people.
Yeah.
It's just for me personally, it's just, I'm a type of person that I have to feel connected to you energetically to even be with you. Like I haven't even slept with a man in like over a year and a half. And that's only because, not because I'm trying to be celibate, but because I haven't had that pure connection that fills my soul. And so for me, that's who I am. So I'm not trying to be like anybody else. I'm just trying to be in integrity with myself.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Like we should just say that again. Like that piece of sovereignty is actually being in integrity with self. Like that's
integrity with self.
That's actually that's a good coin idea here.
Yes, totally.
Being in integrity with self is actually sovereignty, and knowing exactly what you need, not trying to fit into other people's ideas of what it should look like to be in an open relationship or sexuality or intimate relationship. Like sometimes we think a relationship has to be very sexual, but maybe it's a soul connection and that's as nourishing. And so there's so many different things going on at the same time, right?
Yes, and we're always relating with other people. You know, we're consistently in relationships. Our entire lives are relationships, relationships with money, relationships with work, with relationships with friends. You know, we're always in relationships, and so how it is that we relate to it is how we're going to have the experience. And so if I had, let's say, judgments or some kind of withholding within myself, my experience with her would be very different, and it would feel friction filled. It wouldn't feel as loving or as joyful because there's that in the space. And so it's like what our job is to remove the blocks. That's really what our job is to deprogram, to remove the blocks so that we can experience the fullness of love. And the more you lean into it and sit in the uncomfortability, the more love you will experience. And I 100% believe that. It expands beyond your imagination. And it's just like you surrender deeper into it. It's just like it's truly a falling in love with yourself. But it's a falling in love because you're letting go, right? We don't need to say I'm rising in love. It's not a negative word. It's
almost like a loss is stopping to try to control it. It's like letting going it, and then it's like that love can actually happen,
blossom, flourish, thrive, expand. It's like it's exciting. It really is exciting.
Well, you had a bunch of really good, like, you know, you just hit some concepts really powerfully. And I really experience with you is how much it comes from an embodied wisdom. Like, it's not just intellectual ideas. Like, you've really gone in there. You really went into those darker spaces to claim it, to reclaim. Like, your life has been a life of reclaim those spaces where you like lost, you know, throughout your whole life, or, you know, inherited sort of a smaller, you know, area that's acceptable, and like expanded what's acceptable, expand. And it taught you so much, right?
Totally. And I think that the other piece here, it's like to not shame the dark parts of ourselves or the things that we've done in our lives that are considered, like, let's say, mistakes or something that we've done onto another that hasn't felt good. It's like, how can we hold ourselves in compassion even in those spaces and forgive ourselves, because that's what we knew then, because that's, you know, the state of separation that we were in then. And so it's like, how can we continuously evolve with a sense of forgiveness for ourselves and those things that we, you know, have done onto another in the past that is not really you, right? It's not your true self, but it's it was yourself in a sense of separation, which is what causes the leaky energy to happen. And yeah, I think, like, to embrace all, like, the light and the dark spectrums is true freedom. It's like to not push anything away. It's to fully recollect that, reclaim all of it, and transmute it all into the light, you know?
Wow. And I think, like, you sort of nailed it earlier when you said that the more you do accept yourself, the more you're going to have less judgment for everyone else. There's more space for everyone else when you do that.
Exactly, and that's actually what Unleash is about. So Unleash, you know, this transformational guided experience that I've been doing in LA for the past 2 years, right? For this purpose of claiming our individuality, for this purpose of embracing who we truly are, our dance moves, our expression, or whatever wants to come through us. And at the core level of Unleash, right, it's like, I want to activate people into their power by having them accept themselves. But through that, the beautiful thing that comes from it is, through the embrace of individuality, we create unity in the world. This is actually how we create more unity. The more we can embrace ourselves, the less barriers and the less judgment, the less stuff that we have. And so, of course, like, everything will feel inclusive. So that is my solution to a lot of the world's problems.
Well, I love how you create this idea that, you know, there's this individualization, which at first could almost occur as something like everyone kind of criticizes individualism. Like you're like, oh, you're being such an individual, or like it kind of goes with something being egotistical or self-centered. But actually, it's like you bring it to this individuality, then this communion with the community. It's like this tension between the two that allows for this real embracing of like being really who you are, and yet being that love of unity.
Exactly, because it's like it's the microcosm, right? So if you can accept all of yourself, that's a wholeness. If you only accept part of you, it's partial. And
Right.
so in your wholeness, you can then be whole with everyone else, because it's like we're pieces to the puzzle for this one big thing,
Yeah.
right? So it doesn't serve anybody if you're not your whole self.
Yeah. So let's say someone comes to Unleash, they're full of shame in their body. They don't feel like they fit the archetype of the average person. They see all these beautiful dancing bodies that are naked, and they feel like their body is not at all as beautiful. And they're full of, maybe shame around sexuality and whatever programming they have. How do you address that person? How do you bring them in?
It's done in such a beautiful way because there is a process to Unleash as well. It's like as soon as you come into the door, the first thing is we have human connection. We have people like welcoming you in, right? We paint you up, we bedazzle you, so there's a sensation like you're becoming part of something, right? So when we paint you up and when we create a sort of uniform
Right.
field in the space, you start to be like, oh, I'm part of everything and everyone.
Right.
There is no difference here. And so that's the beginning stages. And so, of course, then I let people in on the story that I wasn't always this unleashed. I think people need to understand that. It's like, just because you see me like this now, it doesn't mean I went through, it's been 38 years of my life to get to this point.
Well, I remember looking at your site and seeing your tagline. I used to be fat. I'm like, I can't believe that.
well, that was actually a title for the MTV show that I did. I worked with these kids that were overweight and
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But I was definitely, I think overweightness or anything like that is also just it's a sense of separation, right? Because we pack on these things because we're afraid to be all of who we are.
Yeah, and protecting ourselves.
And protecting ourselves. So it's a protective mechanism. So food would, I know that we're going off into a different topic slightly, but
it's
back. Not. It's all the same. It's actually all the same because it's all to do with unleashing, right? And so, like, even when we take our physical bodies and, like, weight loss is actually the act of falling in love with yourself. It's really when you have pain and you try to avoid the pain, you then create more pain because it's like when a person goes into the refrigerator, right, knowing that they really don't want to eat, but that's their coping mechanism, let's just say, so that they don't feel something because they're trying to avoid the pain that they think that they're going to feel, whether that means loneliness or less than or whatever that belief might be, and they don't want to feel that. The coping mechanism is to eat. So then that's a sense of separation from themselves. If we allow ourselves to feel and just feel the pain and release the pain through anger, tear, rage, whatever that might be, that sense of needing to go to the fridge and that behavior will go away. But see, so it's like in the avoidance of pain, you go to the fridge and you create more pain because now you put on more weight and now there's more shame and now there's more blah, blah, blah. So it's a cycle. So the way that I really teach people is through continuous self-love and like really dismantling the beliefs and eating out of nourishment and not punishment and not anything that creates sense of separation or stress. No bueno. It's like we want to like do it because we're worthy. We're like feeding ourselves because we deserve it. And what feels good to our body is a feeling versus looking. When you feel good, then you look good, not the other way around. So, what else?
Well, you're bringing us into the ritual of going into the room and to make someone that's sort of carrying all this stuff.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Let's go. Yeah, let's go back to that. So essentially that feeling, and so then I connect them to the story of like, hey, like, and there's always a theme too, and that I'm always connecting it to something really purposeful and intentional. And so now that we're in the room, I sort of, there's like a channeling that happens through me because I feel like I'm very embodied in the moment to carry a certain like
Mm-hmm.
a space holding and an infusion of the energetic. Um, and so I guide people very compassionately and kindly and playfully, and also being as big as I am. There's no holding back within me, but I
Mm-hmm.
still have a space of love and compassion. And I can see, like, sometimes if I see somebody in the room and they're seated, I I play with them and I dance with them and I bring them into the experience, right? And I think like that's something that not you don't
Like
get to have that,
welcoming.
like a welcoming. It's a welcoming experience. You don't like I most people that have gone to Unleash, like they're always just feeling so welcome, and I think
Mm-hmm.
that their walls of that fear that they might feel at first because they've never experienced something like this goes away pretty instantly.
Yeah, it's
And
almost like
once
bathing
that,
in love. And Yarixa
yeah, it's like
love.
you're bathing it. Yes, and it's what the beauty is like it's this remembrance. It's like, oh, here I am. Like, oh, I'm home, because
Yeah.
the people that are also there are not judging.
Yeah.
We're all in the same space of
Yeah.
like, this is a space of like true, like, welcoming and embracing of who you are, and so we're all in this love bubble.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of people compare it to Burning Man, and the feeling that they have at Burning Man, that um, it's like coming home,
Mm-hmm.
because you're just in a world that everything goes, and you're like,
Mm-hmm.
wow, this is me, I'm free, right? And I think like that's what Unleash provides, and also the idea behind Unleash is like get you to that next step where that
Mm-hmm.
edge that you might have.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll stretch it, and you'll unleash every time more and more, and you
Mm.
become more and more open. So it's a
Mm.
process. Some people might do it in 5, some people might do it in 10, where they feel like they're
Mm.
coming, like, finally, like, whoa. And it's a beautiful process.
Yeah.
It really is.
It sort of like allows them to sort of inch towards that experience that you had at Birmingham where you're like, wow, you're like almost in
Yes,
that state of grace, dancing.
totally, totally. And I've even Unleash, every time I host Unleash, I actually have to become whatever the theme might be. Um, and so I'm unleashing every time too. So I've chosen this life, right? I've chosen this trajectory because my soul wanted to be free in this lifetime, and I've I've seen the opportunities of like, oh, I'm actually going to go do that because that's in alignment with what I've been asking for.
Hmm.
And so it's like we have to see like what we've been asking for and see the opportunity presenting itself to you,
Mm-hmm.
and taking the opportunity, like leaning into the opportunity, even if it's scary, because it was scary as fuck to lean into Unleash. I just knew that my purpose was bigger than my fear. I knew that my mission was bigger than my fear of public speaking, of dancing, of all the things. And
Mm-hmm.
I just was like, I overrid everything. I was like, I'm
Mm-hmm.
here to just be of service. I'm here to be of service to God, which is me. And so for so that I can leave this life and feel like I did everything I could. I gave everything I had. And in the giving of all of myself, I receive all of myself.
Mm. Wow. That's so beautiful. It's very yeah, it's just yeah, it's so passionate and full of love and so real, you know? And I think like for me the thing that always remains for me with you is just yeah, where it really does come from that place of love, you know? It's
Yeah.
it's really like that's where the permission to fully become and to completely unleash happens. It's like
Yes.
I really feel
Yes.
that with you.
Totally. And I think if people were to experience like a shaming of themselves, of like not doing it all the way, that's just part of the that's just part of the process for them to sink into, to acknowledge where they're putting pressure on themselves, right? Because it always goes back to ourselves and our lessons. Nobody out there is pushing you. You are the one that is creator of everything. And so it's like, how can we all take responsibility of like, okay, I can see where I put pressure on myself to be somewhere I wasn't. And like, how can I love myself in the process of it? It's like walking before running type of thing. You know, how can I love myself in the process of walking and not being full explicit? But I know that the more I do this, the easier it'll become, right? So it's a self-talk of that compassion for yourself. And then sooner than later, you're going to be there because it's through love. It's really through love. There's no shaming in this game.
Well, I'm really fascinated. I know that we're kind of coming to the end of our conversation, but I still want to ask you a question really fast. It just seems, I don't know if you still have time, but because I see you like saying hi to people.
Oh yeah, no, I know, because I'm at a restaurant right now, and so they're like, oh, you gotta pay, you know, we're gonna close up right now. So, like,
so we have to finish up.
I'm gonna, let me just give her my credit card here. We just gotta handle it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool.
Let people go home at the end of their day, you know?
Yeah, of course.
But, you know, in this whole conversation around like us being responsible, like there's this whole debate out in society right now going on around racism. And I'm just curious how that fits into this conversation, because it's a delicate one, you know?
It is a really delicate one. And, you know, when Black Lives Matter happened, I went into a full on just level of empathy. And I really felt everything really deeply. And I could see why this needed to happen in the first place, right? Like, in order for us to heal, the responsibility here, right, is if things are fucked up, we have to speak our voice. We have to speak our truth. We have to and get everybody on board and call them out and be like, yo, if you really want to help in this situation, like step up, right? And so like, if we can each take our responsibility for whatever it is truly that we're feeling inside, this is how we will heal as a planet. If we keep hushing, if we keep pretending, sweeping things under the rug, we cannot come together. And at first, it might be this really harsh reality, and people being, I guess, a little fragile around it, and being like, oh, but it wasn't my intention. And, you know, like that sort of fragility, especially amongst like white people or people that aren't of Black race. And I think it's a matter of just continuing to take on responsibility of like, okay, where did I contribute to this? Right? This is the spiritual activism, right? And I think it's like, that's the part that we need to work on probably the most, and simultaneously take inspired action, but let it come from that place of responsibility of where you've denied, rejected, created separation. Heal those wounds within yourself, and then we can come together as a planet, and we can come together as a human race. But I feel it's a lot of inner work, and yes, the outer work to continue to create the harmony between all of us, because of course it's like, you know, in order for me to create my physical body, it's not just going to be a matter of me doing the internal work in my mind. I'm also going to exercise it. I'm also going to actually do something physical on the outside of me to create the body, right? So same thing here. It's like the actions that we're taking on the exterior are absolutely important. And to stand up for when things are not feeling right. They're not in your truth. It's like to not stay silent. I think that silence is the thing that kills us most. It's like expression is the antidote of oppression, suppression, and depression. And it's like, expression is the thing.
That's another nugget, by the way. We're going to have to write that one down.
Yes, expression is the antidote of oppression, suppression, and depression.
Wow.
That's why, like, I do Unleash, right? Like, you get me, because it's like, it's expression. When we
Yes.
don't express,
Yeah.
we die inside. We create
Yes.
separation. We
Yes.
create irrational thoughts. We create linear and logical thoughts.
Mhm.
Dance is spiraling. Dance
Yes.
is expansive. Dance is creative. Dance is a download of true life force.
Yeah.
So I feel like it's one of the best medicines on the planet.
Yeah. Yeah. I totally agree with that. Wow. Thank you for like being that like portal of expression for us. And I just love your passion, and you're just like, you know, I think you got to do some like spoken word here.
I have spoken words.
Yeah.
Oh, girl. Oh,
Well, I don't know.
okay.
Can I ask you to lean into something?
Sure. Yes.
I was
anytime.
I was curious about that voice activation. I was wondering, would you be willing, where you're at right now, to give us a little example of what that looks like?
A voice activation?
Or like, is there something that you activate, you know, does that mean singing in different places?
Yeah, so voice activation, so singing has been probably, that's the one that I have to continue to lean into. I'm in a process for that
Yeah,
one.
for sure. Yeah.
And I feel like voice activation is a lot of different things. There's toning, right?
Yeah.
Saying like the om, like
Yeah.
the deep om,
Yeah.
doing the ugly nasal sounds like
Yeah.
like we don't want to do that, right? We usually
Yeah.
don't want to sound ugly. And
Yeah.
so practice sounding ugly. What's the worst that can happen? Just fucking sound ugly. Okay, like what go down the rabbit hole is what I'm saying. It's like utilize it. But yes, like I think voice, like speak your truth even if your voice
Yes.
shakes, and and do sing, because singing is your that's almost like your toning equipment that you have inside, right? If you were an instrument, it's like how do you attune it? You can attune it through the movement, and you can attune it through your sound, right? And the more we can sound and create all of the sounds, the more we can attune our bodies. So I definitely believe that. I guess one thing I would love to leave you guys with is actually a poem that I wrote, and I have 9% battery left, so I think this is enough to leave you with this like amazing piece. Thank you so much, love. So let's see. This piece here that I wrote is called The Great Divide, and I'm just gonna read it off my phone, but I intend to do a whole album called Unleash of spoken word, because I feel like these are transmissions, and I've all of a sudden become an artist because I keep opening and I keep unleashing. And I think that that's the key. Like, you're going to discover things about yourself that you never knew when you keep leaning into the fears and the joy. So, okay, I'm going to leave you with this. Ready?
Go for it.
The Great Divide gave rise to a world of illusion, hence all the confusion, gave birth for the masks we now use to hide, the parts of ourselves we shame and judge inside. We must bring these to the light. Whatever you do, don't avoid or fight. Surrender and allow true sight to make the relationship with you and you right. What you are seeing is for a reason. It's to help you awaken to the treason some false god we be pleasing. The truth is, you're an infinite, loving being, and anything else that you're seeing are false timelines that misinform your eyes with big fat lies. But don't give up. It takes a few dozen tries for your mind's eye to open wise. Don't give up, give in, go inward for the win. Correct the perception of the sin, shed the reptilian skin. Let us begin. Fallen angels from the skies believed the true lies, and just like in the Lord of the Flies, people began to fight for powers that can only collapse like the Twin Towers. Hierarchy, pedestals, corrupt stages, stolen dreams, and garnished wages. All of this keeps us in cages. Let us see each other as equal. This is a much better sequel. Let's tap into the oneness, slip into that calmness, meditate, dance, play, sing, and be still. then go run up that hill, to come back down and chill. It takes movement of emotion, putting the energy in motion to create spaciousness, to remember. Remember? Remember. To come together as one. Wax on, wax off, said Mr. Miyagi to Daniel's son. Paint the house, make love to your spouse, dance, move, sing, play, dance, make shapes out of clay. Focus, hocus pocus, the witches and wizards are back, just like the grass grows through the pavement cracks. Love and truth will always cut through fear and lack. This corona can either be seen as a vicious attack, or it can be seen as the crown of your chakras that brings you back. This virus is a clearing for you to have better hearing.
Wow.
Tune into the parts of you that still need love, the parts of you suppressed, pushed down, and shoved. Can you hear me now, or is this too loud? Can you hear me now? The pain is begging you to see it. Take a seat, take a bow. Child's pose, please. Surrender to the crown. Let us look at the secrets hidden. Eat the apple that's been forbidden. Excavate the skeletons in the closet. It's okay. It's okay. Open it. Don't close it. Don't put a hand over your eyes. See the truth within the lies. Forgive yourself as you took part in this creation of this collective manifestation from the pain you haven't unpacked, passed on from generation to generation. Give yourself gratitude for this realization and now feel so that you can heal. Take this opportunity to resurrect unity. What wolf will you feed? What truth will you lead? You've been given a brand new seed. Awaken, sleeping beauty. It's time for your duty. You've come on a mission, open to hear this transmission. Surrender the chaos of your mind to avoid being third eye blind. Meditate. Don't medicate. Those pills, potions, and pharma concoctions are here to keep you asleep, to follow like the sheep, but you are a leader. Look in the mirror. That is the image in the likeness of God you are seeing. Look, lean in. You are the salvation. Take responsibility. You are the creator of life's greatest mystery. You are the resolve for suffering and misery. Be the change you wish to see, said Gandhi. Fuck the great divide. Show yourself. There is no more you can hide. You can't unsee what you saw, not even if you tried. Bless you for your courage in the face of fear. Allow your anger, your rage, and your tears. The great awakening is here. Come into thy kingdom. What awaits you is your freedom.
Aww. Wow, I love the rhythm and all the rhyming. You did the most creative rhymes, like the towers and all that. It was so freaking awesome. Thank you. Wow, you're gonna have
You're
to send
welcome.
us. You're gonna have to send this to us in writing.
Oh, I will. I'm gonna record it. I'm gonna make it be heard in your ears. You know, like
That is amazing. Thank you. And it
share.
was just given with such punch, and like everything you had, like, you said that you want to give everything in your life. I could just feel you're like, here.
Here you go, guys.
This
I'm
is it. Take it
now for you. Take it. Take it.
Well, awesome. So that was very powerful. Is there one last thing you'd like to say before we close up?
Sure. I would love if you guys could join me on July 30th for Unleash. And I'm going to, be doing that with a couple of artists as well. But it's a virtual experience. And if you can follow me at Unleash Movement, that would be the best way to connect with me. So at Unleash Movement without an ED. And yeah, that's all, folks. Blessings to you. And thank you so much for being part of this co-creative experience. And, it's like we're having a conversation, but it's like sometimes I feel like you asked for it. And so it's like I'm you and you're me. And so I'm just doing you. And it's just like,
Well, thank you
So
for
thank you.
igniting us. Like I felt you just gave us so much love and like possibilities, and I feel like I have more courage even just by hearing you talk. So I'm like, okay, where do I lean into now?
Thank you so much, love.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
So thank you
So,
all for coming and tuning in. And next week it will be a surprise. We have a special guest. It's going to be a man, and he's going to tell us some interesting stories of like what kind of shame he had to overcome, and it has to do with
oh
some
wow.
form of maybe some things that are bodily that were shameful, but like through sort of medical sort of interventions. So he'll give us more details,
Wow.
but it's going to be very interesting. So you can tune in next week for that. Okay, so thanks a lot.
Totally will do. Thank you, love.
Thank you for being there. And thanks for showing
Thanks,
up.
guys. Thank you, Julie.